In my essay, I discuss the impacts of one of the most devastating environmental disasters in American history, the Dust Bowl. It happened in the 1930s and affected mainly the Great Plains, an area that was once known as fertile land. Drought, high winds, and poor farming practices stripped the soil of nutrients and left it as barren land. The area was beaten by massive dust storms that ravaged crops, livestock, and families. It was not just farms that suffered in this disaster, it essentially changed the whole course of U.S. agriculture history. Before the Dust Bowl, the type of farming they practiced was unregulated, and most people had no idea of the importance of soil conservation. When they saw a vital food-producing region turn to a desert, the U.S. government knew they needed to act. This led to new policies, relief programs, and a permanent place for the government in the management and support of farming in America. The Dust Bowl had a severe impact on the land and its people. Layers of dust covered the farms entirely. Crops died, livestock died, and families had no way of earning a living. The same soil that once managed to feed generations of farmers became useless. This forced many families to move from their homes to other states. Many were forced to travel west in search of work and improve their living conditions, especially into places such as California. These migrants who struggled with poverty, segregation, and living in camps and farms labor towns came to be known as Okies. Their suffering also showed the necessity of government action to bring the suffering to an end. The disaster destroyed not only the farmland, but also broke up towns. This was the crisis that proved the government could not stand by and allow citizens to lose everything to an environmental disaster. Franklin D. Roosevelt's administration created major reforms under the New Deal in response to the Dust Bowl. The Soil Conservation Service was one of the most important agencies created in 1935. This agency taught farmers how to use crop rotation and plant and cover crops as sustainable practices. It also provided financial and technical help to the farmers who were ready to change their farming techniques. At the same time, the Agricultural Adjustment Act, or AAA, paid subsidies to farmers who reduced crops to balance supply and demand. Although the AAA was both controversial and ruled unconstitutional at first, it represented a very important stage in the federal government's willingness to directly influence agriculture. These were not just temporary fixes, but in putting these programs into place, they laid the groundwork of how the U.S. would support agriculture moving forward. Americans' ideas about agriculture changed forever after the Dust Bowl and the policies created during and after it. The concept of government-run soil conservation or crop subsidies was nearly unheard of. The devastation of the 1930s proved that without regulation and support, farming could collapse. Far more harmful practices were replaced by sustainable ones, with the aid of the Soil Conservation Service to help protect the land and prevent erosion. These efforts didn't just save farms, they changed farm culture, soil health, conservation education, and sustainable farming became standard. During the decades, government involvement grew and ended up changing how farmers dealt with weather extremes, crop failures, and economic stress. It is because of this that today we have farm subsidies, crop insurance, and emergency relief programs. What was once a response to the disaster became a part of America's agriculture system. Dust Bowl taught the U.S. a painful but important lesson, that agriculture is too important to leave unprotected. As a result, many of the programs initiated in the 1930s remain in use and are still growing. For example, the Farm Bill has passed every 5 years. It gives funding to disaster relief programs, conservation programs, and to farmers in tough economic or environmental circumstances. In an age of climate change, the lessons from the Dust Bowl are even more important now that droughts, floods, and changing weather create new risks for agriculture. The programs first created during the Dust Bowl have prepared the U.S. to support farmers in responding to disaster and protecting the food supply. This is how the Dust Bowl continues to define how we treat farming, sustainability, and the government's role in preserving agriculture for the future.